Chelsea Community Church is a second home to me. And though I know many of you guys may not know me personally, I'm very familiar with you, Chelsea Community Church. My history goes back over 10 years. The first time that I ever spoke in front of a microphone in public was here in 2011. The sermon was about fear and God being your shield, right? So when you talk about the old bones, right? One of the things about this church and this church building is when you look at it, a building that was constructed in 1832, right? You think about it's bones. This is a place of bones, right? And when you look inside and you think about bones, you think about, is there life in the bones, right? So we go to the scripture. That brings me to my point. Kathy Reid, right? And my relationship with her that went back and brought me here over 10 years ago to give me an opportunity because she saw some life in dry bones. What a lot of you don't know is how our relationship started and what it meant to me and what it meant to today. So I want to give you guys a happy New Year's Eve, right? And most of the time when we're looking forward to New Year's resolutions, today I want to take a time to reflect on history and the importance of history and the importance of, as one of the hymns said, being in the moment. So Kathy Reid was a part of a program called Rising Hope, right? Inside of the penitentiary in a hard, dark place in upstate New York. And when I ran into her, she had a cane. If anybody knows Miss Kathy, she had a cane and she was disabled, but never called her disabled because she was very capable and willing. And even in the mission statement, when I looked and I Googled and I looked and I seen the new life that was in the mission statement, and it said, I smiled and I laughed to myself when it said that the relationship in the mission statement of Chelsea Community Church was finders and seekers, right? Which is the core of relationships, right? A finder and a seeker, that's a relationship. And then Kathy, it says, Kathy came in as a lay leader with no authority from anyone but her thinking that this was the right thing to do. And she was the lay leader, and she said, an uncertain faith, right? Because you don't know what part you play in a relationship. Are you the seeker or are you the finder? So I say that to say, when she met me, this was the Kathy that I was meeting. She was on a mission from Chelsea Community Church. She was the DNA of the old bones when she interacted with me. So as I told you, she was disabled and she was on a cane. And at the time, I had a basketball injury, so I was on a crutch. And when I saw her, I saw someone on a cane, and I was like, what would she be doing in such a dark place that was so tough? And me, myself, being so young, I had lived here. I had grew up in here since I was 18 years old. This was a place I was comfortable with. So I asked her, I said, what would you be doing here? And she said, I'm here for my purpose. I'm here to bring some hope. And if you know Kathy, you know if she said it, she meant it. So for me, from that day, I began to assist her with her cane, and she said, you look like you need more help with your crutch. And we became a cordial, and we went into a classroom, and I said to myself, because I have to be honest with you, at that point in my life, I had lost all hope in humanity, in the powers that be, in institutions, in structures. I had been oppressed. I had been put down. I had lost all opportunity. So when I saw her and thought that, well, she has to be here and she has to be up to something. But she was up to something. She was here to breathe life into dead bones, right? So that relationship ended up, she began to pour into me. And I told her and made her journey into that place. Once I said, hey, that's my friend. Wherever she went, because a lot of you guys, when you first met me or saw me or you know about me and Kathy's relationship, the first thing you always probably said is we look like oddballs. Like, what are they? Is that mentor and mentee? What is the relationship? But I'm here to tell you today the relationship was friends, right? Because when I needed her and she came to bring hope in that dark place, it fed me. And when anybody that knows that when she got sick, so many years later, I was there to be there for her and breathe life back into her all the way until her dying day. And then today, when I come and see her, I didn't even have, she was a part of my sermon, but she was not, that's why I look a little off, but she was not the total sum of my sermon. But today, after hearing him, the guest pastor, talk about being yourself and being in the moment, and I see that she's a part of the mission statement, we must talk about the DNA of Chelsea Community Church, right? So that's just, I wanted to talk about that. Now, I want to talk about what happened with me and how this word became life to me. So as you know, my mother got sick, right? When I came home, and I had a very, very tumultuous life. My mother got sick. And after all my life, when I came in, I told you last time, when I saw her, and I had got a UPS helper's job. And me and my mother's relationship was really tumultuous, and I got a UPS helper's job, and I had the UPS helper's vest on. And it was, a couple days out of being incarcerated, and I saw her, and when she looked at it, my mother cracked a smile, and she was never too kind to me. That was one of the reasons that the relationship between me and Kathy was fostered so well, because Kathy was very nurturing and loving and genuine. My mother, not so much, even though she was very loving, right? So when she said, and I saw that smile, and I never really asked her what that smile was about that day that I saw her in the vest. I said, all the things that I've done in my life, what are you smiling for now in a UPS vest? I'm 39 years old, looking with kids. I feel like a moron. I'm so humiliated. But she knew something that I didn't know. She knew that God knew me before I was in the womb. That God knew my DNA as in those dead bones. When you think about dead bones and you think about DNA, right, in New Zealand, they did a study on an old bird, right, and they said that they was trying to find the DNA, and they said that, does it live? Does the DNA and does the life live in the bones? And in New Zealand, it said that after 525 years, it dies in a half lifespan, and then in 1,000 years, 75% gone. Right? And then if you're a person of no hope or no faith, that starts to make you think that there is no life in dead bones, or the life in the dead bones only have a lifespan. But what Kathy knew is that when God knew you before that your DNA has who you always been and who you're always going to be. So if they can find a speck of DNA in dead bones, you have life. So when Miss Kathy saw me and she found a speck of life in me, she brought the dead bones back. So bring me to my mother. When my mother was passing away and she died, she was dying, and we was talking and we was getting to know each other as the pastor talked about knowing yourself. Right? She was able to share to me some of my struggles that I haven't known, that my great-grandfather was blind, but he had businesses, and he knew how to count money, and he had a bunch of children. He had a spirit that couldn't be dominated. It began to make me know myself, right? So when I asked my mother, I said, why were you smiling that day 3.5 years ago when you saw me in that stupid UPS vest? And what she said was, the dead bones. God answered my prayers in the dead bones. I didn't really understand at the time, but after she passed, I started to look into it. And what she meant is that her prayers, that no matter how old I was and no matter what was going on, whatever God told her, her faith was built into God, that there was life in those dead bones. So she never looked, whatever she saw, she never saw that. She only saw God. And in her dying days, what happened while she said she was smiling is that she looked in that moment and realized that God had answered her prayers, that I was on the path to becoming the Rasheed that she had always wanted, the Rasheed that she knew in her womb, the Rasheed that God knew before I was in the womb, that I was stepping into my purpose. So now when I stand here 11 years later, in my purpose, talking about dry bones and the dead bones and looking at this church that was built so long ago, and I look at Chelsea Community Church as the DNA, right? Kathy Reid, who's no longer here, but her spirit is alive and living. And in the touching and the people that I've touched, is Kathleen's spirit has touched from dry bones to life, to living, right? So now when I ask you, it said in Jeremiah that I knew you for your purpose, right? And we talk about now I want to talk about dry bones in real life, right? So you have Winston Churchill, who at 65 years old, after a lifetime of heartaches and setbacks, he finally got his shot, and World War II happened, right? And now he's infamous. But at 65, how many people would have called it old dry bones, that there was no more life in there? But we knew what he loved was Parliament, right? So when he got attached to his purpose, everything started to connect. Then you have Samuel Jackson, who at 45 years old found his purpose. And now you can't think of Samuel Jackson as anything other than an actor and a movie star, right? What did you do with your other 45 years? I could not even imagine. Then you have Stan Lee, who at 39 years old got his break and started, right? So what did he do with Marvel and so many things so wonderful, right? You look and you think of old dry bones and you think that they aging, and you think, as it's said in New Zealand, right, that, after 500 years you start to lose some life. After 1,000 years you start to lose some life. But I'm here to tell you that I'm a living testament that any dry bones still has the DNA. And if you have the DNA, you are always what you've always been, right? Once you connect yourself to your purpose. Now, how do you find your purpose? Your purpose is the thing that excited you all of your life. So I stand here with some of the things that I've done, and very humbly, you heard them, it was a lot of words, but I tell you, what I've done, I went to school, I've owned my own business. But in line for that, I've become a stand-up member in the community. What I've always wanted to do, I always wanted to work with at-risk youth. I've gone and done that. I wanted to do business. I've gone and done that. But that became the spark of Kathy Reid seeing life in dead bones. So when she saw me, she didn't see what I was. Like when I come past this building and I see 1838, right? Unless you dig in it and you get into the DNA, and then you know in 1975, Chelsea Community Church was built, right? And anything that's built is a separate entity, right? So it's a 501c, so it's a separate entity. And you're talking about, is it Generation X, right? So when you're talking about a lifespan at Chelsea Community Church, is it alive? It has to be alive, and it has to be living. Why? Because I'm a direct reflection of Chelsea Community Church over the last 10 years. When you see me, you may not identify yourself with me. Right? The Chelsea Community Church had a program where they used to send cards to the inside prisoners, right? And the prisoners inside, Kathy Reid, until her dying day, she was serious about her Christmas cards to the prisoners, right? So on this day, I would ask you, I know that I normally get a diary or a check that comes here. I would ask whoever is running the church, because I remember Hilda, who I'm happy to see that she was with her family. But I also remember Lynn Ramsey, who's no longer here, Lynn Robinson, and a few others that was Joanne, that was here and present, right? They put down the bones of Chelsea Community Church. So I ask you today, in your dry bones, like, what is your purpose? What are you attached to? Are you living bones? Do you believe in faith? So what's the difference when they say that in dry bones? They said that it's possible to get a speck of DNA off of any bones, but possible, right? Not likely. You know, scientists never want to be incorrect, right? So they say possible. But I ask you today, is there life in the bones of Chelsea Community Church? Is there life in your purpose? Do you have a purpose? I know that I've walked into my purpose. And my purpose is so satisfying that I don't ever feel like I aged. I feel like the same child that lost all of his life at 18 years old. I've been renewed. And anything that I've told you, anything that I speak about that I've accomplished, you can Google it. I will give you facts, because it's not a brag on me. It's a testament to Chelsea Community Church, to God above top, and to there being life in dead bones. Thank you so much. And I hope that your New Year's be blessed and wonderful.